Hey guys, this is Kelly. I'm back with another process video. I'm just showing you real quick that that envelope did not cut out quite like I wanted it to. It showed it was fine on my Silhouette software, but for whatever reason, when it went through, I guess it didn't read the mat quite right, but it didn't print off, or it didn't cut the notch. It didn't go down far enough on the page. But I decided, because I, am using this gorgeous pattern paper from the Very Merry collection by Crate Paper, that I'm going to try to make it work. Now, the other hint that I can give you, and I wish I would have done this, is the cut file designed by Paige. The cut file cuts little like dashes, for you to score your pattern paper or your paper. And I feel like if I had taken the pattern paper and then scored it in addition to, using my bone folder, and not just relied on the little dashes, that it would have scored nicer. The envelope, now I'm like looking at it and I'm like, okay, the notch didn't cut right and the envelope's a little crooked, and I've used my pattern paper that I love, and I really want to figure out how to make this work. So I decided that I'm going to try to cover up that notch with a die cut from the Very Merry collection and just try to make it work. So I'm just going through all of the different die cuts, trying to figure out what I like. I liked the little Santa hat, but the Santa hat is just too small. It's like a stamp and it's perfect. And when I put the Jingle All the Way on top, I'm like, okay, that's it. I don't want to make this process any more difficult than it has to be. And believe me, I do a very good job of that, especially since I'm not crafting nearly as much as I would like to. So I went ahead and thought, I'm just going to put this envelope straight into my December daily. And I, put my 4x6 picture in to judge and see, and it would either, a little bit would make it harder for that envelope to close, or a little bit would show through the holes, where I used the hole punch. And I wanted it to be a little bit cleaner of an envelope, if that makes sense. So I trimmed down the photo a little bit, and I'm going to put my journaling on the back of the 4x6, and then I will get to that in just a second. So here is also my other mistake that I made, but I do fix it, but I do it off camera, is I put the die cuts on upside down. I was thinking that, I don't know what I was thinking, but the Jingle All the Way, I really want to be able to see on the page, on the left-hand side of the page. And I want the wreath on the right-hand side when you're flipping it. And I don't realize this until I go back and put it in my album. So what I do is I just take the die cuts off, and I just turn them right side. They were upside down basically. So I just am taking this 4x6 card. This is from Allie's kit from last year, and I'm trimming it down a little bit just to help, I don't want you to be able to see any white around the edges of the photo, and I just decided to trim that down a little bit. And of course, here I am again, Butterfingers, putting it on upside down. I want to be able to flip over and read the journaling the right way. And it's one of those things, be sure and check, not do like I'm doing, but check before you do all these things. So I come back and I am going to put the numbers on the wreath, and that's going to be it for, this is day 15, obviously, since I'm working with those numbers. So you can see I went ahead and I put it in the album, and it's backwards right now. So the next, I think with the next page, you'll see it come that I flipped it. So this is a cut file that I am working on day 14. I went out of order because the envelope housed some pictures that were a little bit darker, and they weren't very nice pictures, and I wanted to include them, but I didn't necessarily want them to be front and center. Plus I liked the fact that it was an interactive element to the book. So I'm going to go ahead and back this cut file with some of the pattern paper by Merry Days. And I'll tell you what I did not do. I did not check this cut file on top of the envelope. And in just a minute, you're going to see when after I have cut out, these pieces, that I'm looking at it on top and I'm like, are you kidding me? This is probably why you should do your pages in order, but I did not, because I wanted to get that page done with, because it was stumping me. But you can see all of the red, and when I pull the page back and I'm looking at it on the envelope, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just a little too much red. So I'm pulling out some acetate dividers that I have. These are from Felicity Jane. They're also from last year, and I decide I'm going to mount the present on the acetate. Not only will it break up the red a little bit, but it'll add a fun element. I love those acetate dividers, and I like it, but I still feel like it is way too much red. And I am going to go back and I'm going to use the 6x8 pattern paper that I should have used in the beginning and that I loved. But I'll be honest with you, I didn't do it at first. I hoarded it because it was my favorite. See, that's what you get when you don't use some of your favorites right away. So I don't make you watch all of this, but what I did is I went ahead and I lightly penciled some dots, and I poked holes, and then I stitched with some white thread. I used 3 strands of embroidery floss, and I stitched around the present. Love the way that looks. And I backed the bow part and the stars with some charcoal gray glitter paper that I've had in my stash for a very long time. I don't even know how long. I have a little bin just with specialty papers, and I found that, and I thought that would balance off the photo, which you will see in just a minute when I go ahead and put it in. I am documenting my wrapping paper, and I thought, I've seen this idea off of Pinterest, or other people have done it, and it's one of those great filler pages for when you don't necessarily have something eventful that happens. But it's also really neat, I think, to look at the designs that you used, whether they are modern or eclectic, or all different colors. This year I happened to actually choose red, white, and black as my theme, which was a little bit different for me. And I love the way that the gifts looked under the tree, and the papers were some of my favorites. And it was one of those that just kind of came together, and I do love the way that it did. So you can see there that the gray really helps to bring over the black from the other page. So I'm trying to figure out how to put my number on the page. I kind of work backwards, and I decided I'm going to pull this fa la la tag, and I'm going to go ahead and punch holes in it. I'm going to put the number, the wood veneer number, on the front of the tag, and I'm just going to journal a little bit about my wrapping paper, and that's going to be it. I'm going to call it done. However, I will say that when it comes to handwriting my journaling, I have to write in pencil, and then write over it in a permanent pen, because I'm always afraid like my words are going to run off, especially when it comes to such a small space like that. So I would rather do it that way, and just be careful when erasing, and that way I know that my journaling is going to fit. So I also have to cut out some of this. I had issues with my stapler. I could not get it to staple, and it took quite a bit of surgery for me to finally get it. So at the close-ups at the end, you'll see that I did indeed staple the ribbon on that tag. So one of the nice things about working in your album at a later time is that you can make sure that important pictures that may or may not have been so important at the time are included. This is a page that I had not originally planned to be in this album, but I lost my kitty in September, Juliet, and she was my baby. And my daughter would argue that she was her favorite, but really I was her favorite. She used to follow me around in the house. Wherever I went, she would go, or she'd have an eye on me. She had to be in my lap all the time, or at least very close to me. And she used to talk to me like with just meowing, and she had several different meows. And, I was just, determined that I was going to get her in this album at least once, if not more than once. And so I have printed out another picture that I had that's not very good, but it doesn't matter because I want her in the album again, because she won't be in this year's album. And I'm not trying to be morbid about it, but it's just one of those things that I'm going to make sure that she's well documented, because she won't. So anyway, I am pulling this pink pattern paper. I love the background pattern paper. I wanted to make sure that it was a focal point, and what better photo to do than, my sweet kitty. And I am going to just I pulled out that pink because it helps to pull in the back of the Christmas present that you will be able to see when you're flipping through the album. And I didn't think about doing this, and I will with my next process video. Is I'll go ahead and I'll make a quick flip through of the pages that I put together so you can see how that they all work. But using the same products for me for this made it go faster. The products came in my petite kit from the Wild Carrot kits, plus I pulled stuff from my stash, and it just really all worked together. I wanted to definitely use that gold thicker title because of a couple reasons. First, my kitty is underneath the tree. That was her spot. She would be under there, especially when it was lit up. It was like she had to go and just hang out. And I couldn't put too many presents underneath because then she wouldn't be able to get under there. So I had to put presents around so that, she would have room to lay under the tree. So I am going to just go ahead and get that adhered. I used another piece of the pattern paper, my favorite plaid, as well, because I thought that would be just another perfect way to pull these pattern papers in together, and plus use that little strip that I might not necessarily use right away, and to get it out of my stash. And this little Santa really has nothing to do with the page. I just thought it was cute, and I liked the way that it covered up that corner. So I'm looking through what's going to be like a white space spot. I don't know if that makes sense. And I pulled out some of these phrases. These are by Tim Holtz, and they are a bunch of Christmas phrases. And I'm just trying to scan. I could have just taken a couple, but I wanted to try to find something related to the twinkling or, precious gifts, something like that. And I'll be honest with you, I don't remember exactly which one that I chose, but I don't even put it above the title because it was not enough. And I'm going to end up just putting it on the upper left-hand part of the photo. And, it's okay. Sometimes your best laid plans just aren't going to work. See, right there, it just doesn't take up enough space, but I want to use it, so I'm just going to put it onto the photo itself. So I can't have that much of a space, so you're going to see me in just a second. I do lift up the die cut, and I move the die cut up a little bit, and then put the title up a little bit more as well, and it works just fine. The little gold asterisks as well, just to pull in some more gold, because I can never have enough, and I just felt like it helped your eye move around the photo, definitely making that the focal point. And as far as journaling on this page, I just couldn't do it. I don't necessarily think every page needs journaling. Some pages are fine with just photos. It was just one of those things that I knew it just I wasn't going to be able to get through it if I did. So on the back of this page, I don't go through this because it's just basically a photo, but I'm going to go through how I document my journaling for the photo. And I am going to use this idea again that I've seen many other people do. They are I've seen several times that people will include their journaling in between their pages and just have a little bit of it sticking out. So again, not my idea, but I've seen it and I love it, and I'm going to make sure, I'm trying to make sure to include things like that that are interactive and that I do love in my album. So I am taking the stamp set. I got this from Allie Edwards this year, and I believe that it is still available. And I'm just stamping it again and again until I have the crisp image that I want. And I'm going to put the number of the day for the next day, which will be 17. You can briefly see my large photo there of my daughter, and I'm going to just trim it down a little bit, and then I show you how I take cardstock and I reinforce the area all around that journaling card so that you'll be able to pull it out and easily put it back in. So that's kind of my idea with that. So I'm just trimming off the card a little bit because I want it to be visually attractive when you pull it out, and when you trim off a little bit of the 3x4 card, I felt like that I needed to trim off a little bit on the sides as well. Plus I wanted the stamped image to look balanced. And I find that if you trim off a little bit on the length, you most likely have to trim off a little bit on the width. And that was why I did so. So I went ahead and I took a pencil and I just went around my makeshift tag, and I grabbed a piece of cardstock from my stash. I've had this cardstock and you never see me use this dark color, so it's perfect for me to use with what I'm doing. And I want to make sure that this is not going to move. So I'm using my ATG and I am going to trim that down to where it fits that entire back of the page. Now I saw this idea, and I can't remember with who that I originally saw the idea, but it makes more sense because when you adhere everything down, you won't be able to tell through your photo that underneath the photo is uneven, if that makes sense, because now it is two layers, well, one layer in between the pattern paper and the photo itself. So I am just making sure that I get my holes done before I forget. I have done that before, and that's not any fun whatsoever. So I didn't include this number page really, and I should have, but the photo of my daughter is just what that's going to be. It's just a photo and then pulling out the journaling. I decided to use wet glue to start and finish on this side because I wanted the flexibility of the wet glue to be able to move the pattern or to move the photo over top of the cardstock, because I'm not always famous for getting it down the first time. So that's it. That is days 14, 15, 16, and really 17. So thanks so much for joining me. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.